Well, we're joined now by Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, former Commanding General in the United States Army Europe and NATO Senior Mentor for Logistics. Good morning, Lieutenant General. Is this a worrying concept? Also, this attack happened in 2021. What does it say about the state of British cybersecurity that it's 3 years later that we're actually blaming it on China?
Well, I think the delay in the announcement is more about political considerations or thinking about the messaging versus a reflection on UK's cybersecurity. None of us should be surprised, of course, that China does this. And I thought General Chapman, what he just said was very accurate. Of course, China in the information domain is doing all that they can to manipulate what happens inside all of our countries.
I mean, is it fair to say then, from a UK point of view, Ben, that in terms of the infrastructure, the technology, the internet and everything, that we need to be doing more? Talk in the States, of course, that TikTok, owned by the Chinese, we talked about the algorithm, is going to be banned. I don't know if that's possible. Do you think we should be doing more in the United Kingdom? Because people waking up this morning will go, what? They've got my details. How? That's the reality of this conversation.
Well, you just put your finger on it, Jeremy. Our government, our elected officials have got to speak to all of us as if we're adults and be very clear that there is a threat. There should be no debate that this is a threat from China because of their access that we have turned over, maybe without realizing it fully. We have turned over access. I mean, whether you have different devices in your home, not just phone calls being intercepted, but much more sophisticated things. Of course, it's out there, and we shouldn't be surprised. We all want the convenience that comes with this, but we should be alive to the risks. And this is where I think our elected officials have to be very candid. No one will understand it. Like, well, they're not really a threat, but
the issue, Ben, isn't it? If you say to, I mean, I was going to ask you about that level of threat. We'll hear through the media, the terror level's risen, and people will go, whatever. They go, oh my God. And the difficulty when you're a commentator or presumably in a position of power is if you say too much, you're going to freak people out. If you don't say enough, then are you being? It must be a difficult road to travel down, to be fair to them.
Well, again, I think most people will accept clear language from their elected officials if they're accustomed to elected officials speaking to them like they are adults. This is, I think, one of the most important responsibilities of our leaders. Of course, these are threats, and of course, it's a responsibility to make people aware that, hey, look, you need to be aware that there's a potential, increased potential for threats. I mean, France just announced they're now at the highest level of security because of, in the aftermath of what happened in Moscow, but also I think because of the warnings that were coming out from the US and the UK in previous weeks. I think it would be irresponsible not to say you should be more careful. And yes, the government are taking steps to protect you.
And Ben, can I just get further comment from you on those terrorist attacks in Russia? We know that Russia has charged 4 men over the killings of more than 130 people in that concert hall. ISIS have claimed responsibility. I'm just intrigued as how exactly do ISIS claim responsibility for attacks of this nature? Is there an official spokesperson who either Russia or the US and other forces will accept responsibility for, or do we just take the words of the 4 gunmen themselves?
Well, of course, here in the modern age, even ISIS-K, which was established almost a decade ago, has Instagram accounts. And so, you know, they put out not just video, but announcements to claim credit for things like this. And of course, you know, all of us are remembering or getting smarter about who is ISIS-K. And they're the ones that attacked a funeral in Iran. They've attacked Russia before. They are responsible for the suicide bombing that killed 13 of our service members in Kabul. So they're not new to the scene. I think that what they've done is created or continuing their pressure on Russia because they see Russia has Muslim blood on their hands from Syria, Afghanistan, and Chechnya. So this is a longer campaign for them.
But then, couldn't ISIS just claim responsibility for any terror attack, any lone wolf attack of that nature? Could they not just claim it for themselves?
I think, yeah, of course they could do that. But when you put this within the context of General Kurilla, who is the U.S. commander of U.S. Central Command, testified before Congress last week that ISIS-K is capable and willing to do attacks in the U.S. and in Europe now and into the future. So this is not something that they just popped onto the scene. The U.S. and U.K. provided warnings to Russia back a couple of weeks ago of possible terrorist attacks. So to me, these kind of things give more credibility to ISIS-K's claim that they are, in fact, responsible.
Just quickly, Ben, really appreciate this. Chip quite rightly shot me down in flames. I want your view. There's a massive degree of cynicism about Putin, quite naturally, because he's in Ukraine. We were talking about this before we came on. False flag, that's been done before. Now, you're talking about, this is anti-Russia. This absolutely allows Vladimir Putin to treble, double, or whatever he's doing his attacks on Ukraine. One wonders if you're reading between the lines. It sounds a terrible thing to say when you think about the loss of life, but this rather suits the rhetoric for Vladimir Putin, doesn't it? And that's why people are cynical.
Well, I think the fact that he has zero credibility around the world outside of his own country is noteworthy. That was not the case even a couple of years ago. So we should keep this in mind when people are pressing, come on, we need to negotiate with Russia for a conclusion to this war in Ukraine. Remember who we're dealing with. And the security apparatus in Russia immediately blamed Ukraine because they saw opportunity. They need to protect the great leader from dents in his aura as being able to protect the Russian people. I'm going to watch Ramzan Kadyrov, the Chechen leader. How does he react to this? Do the FSB overreact heavy-handed against mosques, Muslims around the Russian Federation? This to me will be interesting to see. It's opportunity for us perhaps to drive a wedge between Chechnya and Moscow.
Ben, thank you so much,
Thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges there.